Hello. Welcome back to the BeastCamp podcast. I am your host, Beast, and we are here for another episode of Krump and Life. Thank you guys for your responses. I just get so hyped when you guys take it deeper and do your own research on Jim Quick, Jordan Peterson, and all the people that I mentioned because, again, I just don't wake up and have all this knowledge, right? I do my own research about it. I read books, I watch videos, TED Talks. I have friends that tell me about these topics too. So I'm just doing and returning the favor of just speaking to you guys of the stuff that I learned from all the resources that I have, right? So keep spreading the knowledge, keep spreading the light, because we need as much as we can in this crazy, crazy world. So let's get straight into it. As you guys can see in the title, it is called Writing Down Your Lab, and this is something that I am excited to talk about because it's something that I love to do. So, writing down your lab, why is it important? So, I love writing down your lab because when I heard it from many professors and just many people that write down just anything, that you are already reteaching yourself because, like in class, in college or high school, it's so hard to write things down word for word, especially if you're learning a workshop or if someone's labbing you up and you want to write it down on the spot. It's hard to write it down word for word. And the way you do it is you have to able to make the words make sense to you. So if you don't realize it, you are already teaching yourself. Before you write it down, you're like, okay, it's kind of like this way. So that's how you would understand what the teacher was saying. And yeah, I think just that little piece of knowledge helped me out a lot. Really not take writing stuff down for granted, especially learning stuff and especially in dance. So there is a difference, however, in writing down your lab with a pen or a pencil with typing. A lot of research say writing down with your hand is way, way better than writing down with your phone. Now, do I do both? Yes, because sometimes I do not have a pen and paper in hand, so I would still type it out in my notes if needed. But yeah, so those are the two things to think about. That writing, I would prefer to write down your lab with your hand than typing it out. Yeah, so that's one. Another thing that I like about with the lab is for me, just from my personal experience, I like to wait maybe a day. So if I take a class, or even if Todd Ice teaches me, and when he teaches me, he only teaches me like once every 3 months because his knowledge is way too much, and I go away on purpose. I go away on purpose because it's too much. I want to make sure I'm applying. I want to make sure I'm mastering before I move on to the next step. So there's no rush for my growth. Do I still take classes and is curious? Yes, I am, because sometimes they can connect. Sometimes it's from different perspectives, but of course my main source is my big homie Todd Eyes. So with that being said, I wait for the next day to see what I really remember and then start to write stuff down and be like, okay, I remember this, I remember that. And the reason why I do that is because I want my brain to still be memorizing or to still be active instead of sometimes when you write stuff down, this is where it gets tricky. Sometimes when you write stuff down, you depend on that too much to work on your own memory, right? To work on your own memory, to let it work out for itself and then write it down. So you have to see what works for you, right? Some people really is good at just writing stuff down immediately. Some are not. So for me, what works for me is writing stuff down like a day later, even in my own personal labs. Like, okay, what did I work on? How was it? I'll write it down later, right? Or like in a day later. And this is even with the other styles that I'm learning now. So that's another one. Another thing that I like to do is that to write what something that I like about journaling your lab is that it keeps yourself accountable, right? So you're keeping yourself accountable. So sometimes I write my goals down and put a little checkbox next to it. So that I said, okay, let's make a 3 bangs and put a little box in it and make sure I have to check it off before I leave that little lab session. So sometimes you need to see your goals visually. And again, it's like what they say, you are, your worst enemy. You are your biggest critic. It's you're only against you. So really take that into consideration, that it's you versus you. You're writing it down, and you can't leave the lab until you are done with that checklist, right? So sometimes I would think, like, what do I feel like I need to work on today? Okay, footwork. Let's think of like 2 foot patterns, and I need like different grooves. Then let me sharpen up my grooves. Let me work on my chest pops and stuff like that. And then just for this lab section, I would check that off. So that's a good one. 2 more for Krump. And so one thing too is, my advice is to go back and read your lab. So read the notes, especially when you're in that rush of you're in a workshop and you're trying to get all the information and you're rewording it yourself. I really believe that you writing down your lab is not effective unless you go back and read it. So in my experience, I would write down my lab and keep writing down stuff, writing down new ideas, writing down new concepts, and I would have like 10 pages of lab and of theories and of formulas of how I could move, but I never went back to it and, let it process it that way. So it's just like any form of studying, you know what I mean? You have to go back to your notes, you have to reword them, you have to check them out again. Was it just for that day it felt good? Did it work again today? So yeah, you have to go back and read your lab. Last one I'll talk about with writing down your lab is, for me, it is really good for character development. So I can explain to someone what is the difference between beast, striker, bad beast, and street beast, and even baby eyes, because I've written down the characteristics. So those are some things for me that are concrete. Like, those are the things that won't change for a very long time. So I could always tap into it, so I can always have a resource of what my characters are. So that's why these two go hand in hand, to read your lab again. So sometimes I go back and, oh yeah, I forgot strikers do this type of focus point, or they chest pop this way, or they walk this way, So I'm very specific when it comes to character development, and that may be the next episode, which is how I can help with character development. So yeah, that is just the beginning of what you can do with writing down your lab. And Krump, I mean, you're already reteaching yourself by rewording whatever's being taught to you so that you can make it make sense. Be aware of writing versus typing. Research say writing is way more important. Yeah, and then you get to see what do you really know. If you want to push yourself to the limit, then write your whatever you learned the next day, and you wake up and it's like, okay, like I remembered everything from last night. And yeah, you get to keep yourself accountable, right? You get to keep yourself accountable by writing down your lab, and even writing notes down while you're labbing, like, ooh, this certain chest pop, okay, dope, and that's why you have to reread your lab, because if it's in a week and you're like, what does this chest pop mean? Like, cashew chest pop. Oh man, that's funny. So yeah, those are my quick little insights about writing down your lab. It's super healthy. You just got to find your own way, your own flow of using that, because everyone is different and everyone's a different learner. So I shared some of my experience, right? So leading this into the life aspect is, yeah, I love journaling. I think journaling is one of the most healthiest things for me mentally. When I was going through like severe like depression and anxiety, journaling for sure helped me out. Just let my thoughts go. So the reason why I went back into journaling heavy was because of this book called The Artist Way. Um, yeah, just look up the book The Artist Way. I think the first name is Julia for sure. I'm not sure of the last name, but yeah, so The Artist Way, the first thing she talks about is morning pages. And her philosophy is you wake up, right when you wake up, you write for 3 pages. You don't need to think, you just write. Even if you're like, I don't know what to write, you write that. Even if it's blank, you write, I'm blank, I don't know what to write about. And then the next thing you think about, you write about that. If your sentences get cut off by another thought, write that. Like, there is no right way to do these morning pages. And her reasoning for that, and she even broke it down in a scientific manner, is because our brains have 2 hemispheres, right? And usually when we're in a artistic mode, our artistic side of the brain is all about like possibilities and all about play and all about this, but our structured brain is trying to say like that doesn't make sense, this and this and that. And that's why we start to self-critique ourselves, and then those other self-critiques or critiques sneak up of other people's critiques, uh, posts that we see on Facebook about certain critiques we see. So even when I hear people like, oh man, like you guys don't think I'm buck enough, blah blah blah, like we hear other people say that, and because we feel like we're not buck enough, we would just um, repeat a lot of stuff we see, and we're not even conscious of that. So sometimes your own consciousness, or sometimes your own voice in your consciousness, is not even yours. Maybe it's just connected to something that you saw on Facebook and saw on TV, or so really be careful. So that's why writing is so important, because you get to write all of your critiques down, like all of that. And it's crazy because when I first started these morning pages, and it was just so timely of where I was at in my life, like 2 years ago, it was a lot of negativity stuff, it was a lot of curiosities, a lot of regret, a lot of just weird stuff that I didn't even know that was like in there and stuff. And yeah, so it gets rid of that critique, and it exercises it, because you are exercising that structure into the paper. And then now when you're in the lab, you feel more free. And this is what I've been telling a lot of people, was that yes, Krump is a form of therapy, but it shouldn't be your only therapy, especially like we're getting older. We're getting busier, our bodies ain't moving the same way, so we have to find different therapies. And for me, I would rather come to Krump in a more free and a more light mindset, instead of coming there so much like with so much baggage, which is okay, but that's where we get so impulsive, that's where we get so triggered and stuff. So that's just me, kind of growing up and seeing like, okay, yeah, we need to find other avenues of therapy. So yeah, and linking that, it is about letting your negative thoughts be somewhere. Sometimes your negative thoughts just needs to be put out. And this is why I like journaling, because we get to safely put these thoughts somewhere and no one will see it. We will not get backlash for it, because sometimes when we put it out on social media or whatever, people may interpret it a certain way. People that we don't even know may interpret it a certain way, and then we start to get in an argument that you may not even be ready for. You're just thinking, right? You're just thinking off of impulse, thinking off of something that you don't even understand, and then it just starts to become a therapy session online / an argument. So I would really advise people to really write down your negative thoughts and see how you feel, because sometimes it just needs to be put out somewhere, right? And that is so, so important. One thing that leads into that is one of my favorite authors, Elizabeth Gilbert. She says when she starts to write down stuff, time slows down, and just like how fast the world is moving, how fast our mind is moving with social media, with multitasking, right? I mean, multitasking is bad. A lot of research are saying multitasking is bad. Like, So this is something that we can focus on and let our emotions and thoughts go somewhere safe. She even, the author of The Artist Way, even encourages to, throw away your journals. It's just something to do for yourself, right? And then, my last thing, which I want to repeat, is there is no wrong or right way to journal. So this goes in Krump as well. There are so many benefits of journaling in Krump, like I mentioned before, and there's so many benefits of writing down just in general. So I encourage you guys to try it right when you wake up. Journal. If 3 pages is a lot, good, because you are stretching that. You are, really dig into what is in your consciousness and just write. That doesn't mean, dig into those negative thoughts. If you don't have any, just write, because my motivation too was that I wanted my self-critique in the lab to be more quiet, and it's because this was a really great way to put it out there, right? And I'll even add this special gem that in The Artist Way, she even talks about somewhere in your morning pages is to write affirmations to yourself. And if this is something I really encourage, is to write down affirmations of yourself. Like, I would write down every morning, like, Sherwin, you are still here. You are still here. You are still pursuing good. You are cleaning up your mess. You are learning more. Like, instead of finding that validation outside, you are just doing that for yourself. So that is something that I want you guys to be aware of, that you can find affirmation within yourself. So again, I'll repeat it. Try writing down affirmations about yourself, so you don't need to find it out there. So write down what you're proud of yourself, even if it's the littlest thing, and that is just so healthy. And some people that I've been talking to in the movement, they've been saying this thing just like I have, is like, man, that's so hard. I'm not used to that. And it makes me sad, because why not? Like, this is just for yourself. This is something, is not being arrogant or cocky. This is something for your mental health. You have to be proud of yourself. You have to be your own best cheerleader. So that's why it's so important to affirm yourself within these pages. So thank you guys for listening. Man, I'm really emotionally attached to this subject, and this is just like maybe part 1, because I have so much more things to talk about with journaling in general. But I do want to raise awareness of how much it helps with your mental health and in Krump. So until next time, that was nasty. Until next time, please share. If you guys do the morning pages, tag me on your stories. If you guys start to affirm yourself, tag me. If not, it's okay. This is, again, just for you, and I really hope to shed some light into that. Always DM me, at Baby Todd Eyes on Instagram. And I'll see you guys next time. Please be safe, and love y'all. And again, most of all, be bug.